Oh my gosh, I wish I had that issue. I tried to do the keto. I tried to do the keto diet. I did good for about 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
Started craving ice cream. Mm-hmm. And then once I dove into that.
That's like no bread.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Keto's like no bread, and is
It's
keto like no bread, but you can have like meat and cheeses and
right. It is
that type of stuff.
Low carb, like real low carb, and high protein, high fat. So I have 2 neurologists. One's a functional one, and then one's like my neurologist that I've had since a child. So my functional neurologist was like, you need to get on the keto diet. And then I went and saw my regular neurologist this week, and she was like, the keto diet is stupid. You know, it's just like, she was like, the medications we have now, there's no point in doing it, and you can't do it. And after that, I was like, well, fuck it. Like, I was like, I hate going to this woman. I hate going to her. She's awful. She just was like, yeah, we'll just up your dose of medicine. And I'm like, seriously, this is all, like, I'm going to be on so many freaking medications by this that, like, if I live to 60. And she was like, all right, well, if this medication doesn't work, then come back in 6 months and we'll have you on 3 medications and taper you off of another one. I was like, I'm just going to be fucking delusional and doped up. I was like, what? Everything I told her about my functional neurologist, she was like, that's dumb. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, I was like, you're paid by the insurance companies, okay? Like, you know, it drove me insane. So I think I'm going to go find a different.
Queen. Thanks.
I'm going to find an epitomologist.
I feel like that would be a good podcast name, is just delusional and doped up.
Yes,
like that'd be a great podcast name.
Yes, it would. Oh my gosh. That would be so perfect. I'm going to take that. If I start a podcast, because that's such an accurate description of me, is delusional.
Yeah.
Like basically my whole life.
I'm say drugged and delusional, because then people would be like, "Whoa, wait, what is this?" They'd be like, "Let me see more." We talk about drugs here. What are we talking about? Like, well, maybe a little bit. Oh man,
they're all legal.
That is so funny.
Whether they should be or not is the other question.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have another buddy that he's been in and out of the prison system, and he's wanting to do a podcast. And he's like, you always have the best names. So I said, what about Institutional Eyes? Institutional Eyes.
Like institutionalized, yeah.
Like nice. The insight of, because does he want to do it about what it's like being locked up and institutionalized?
Yeah. Well, he's been in and out of the system since he was a kid. Like, he never had parents or anything, so he's just been institutionalized his whole life.
Yeah, so that's.
And he always uses that word.
I love it. I have my brother. Well, he's not my blood brother, but everybody knows us as brother and sister. He's the same. He gets out in December, but he's been in there again since 2008 for shooting somebody. It's Carter's Uncle Russ. He's never even met him. Just terrible. He used to sleep on the couch. And I was like, is it because you miss prison? Like, you're used to sleeping on the cots? And he gets so mad at me. I was like, you can't sleep in bigger spaces. Like, you feel comfortable in the slots. And mind you, this is literally when I was doped up. So I had no problem with saying these things. But
I would
anyway.
say, no, I don't care.
I was like, I try to be more empathetic in it, but I've only spent weekends in jail, which Carter likes to tell everybody.
Same.
He tells everybody, like, we meet people and I'll start talking about addiction and he'll be like, yeah, my mom's been to jail. That's so great. Do you tell your teachers that?
Yeah.
Great.
We'll have to do a jail story exchange at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine will
sure.
just blow your mind. So. Yeah.
Mine, I think mine has been twice, a whole weekend and then some overnights because none of my friends could get me out. They were all inebriated.
Oh man! Right, hey Uper, let's go ahead and start with like
associates. My associates at the time.
Start out with like your name and then just tell us like a little bit about yourself, like because the people that are watching may not know who you are. So yeah, just go ahead and tell us your name, a little bit about yourself, and it's like.
So my actual name is not Uper. It's Pete Winkler. I've led a amazing life. I've abused my body in a way that, like, just through physical injuries. I've had 7 knee surgeries. I've been through a lot of just physical abuse, but I've had several head injuries. One of which in 2022 led me to a coma. And upon coming out of my coma, about 3 or 4 days later, that was when I had my first seizure. And it was a big one. And since then, I've actually only had about 8 or 9 since then. But they're so intermittent that it keeps it terrifying. Like I get scared to let people in the car with me. Like I prefer to just, if I'm driving, not that it makes it any safer for anybody else on the road, but thank God it's never happened in that situation. But yeah, I mean, I'm from the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. I've been all over the map, so any specific questions I'm open to answer. You might not like the answers, but they'll be honest.
I missed the date of when you said your first one was. Sorry.
It was unfortunately April 1st of 2022.
Okay. It's ironic, but okay.
My family's like, they're like, he's doing something, because I've always been a goofball. So they're like, yeah, he's messing with us.
Yeah. So it's only been 2 years, really, that you had it, which is really not a long time. So it's good to it's good to be able to talk to you, because Morgan and I have both had it for a long time. And so we kind of are on a different timeline than what you are, where you're sort of just starting out, just getting your bearings kind of around yourself about like what life is like with something like this. And so it's kind of it'll be good to have this conversation. So yeah.
Yeah,
and you did
to
say
me,
there was
the
something that
thing that I struggle with.
Right.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just saying, to me, the hardest part that I've had is the side effects of the medication. That's
okay.
That's hands down the hardest part, because I when people ask me what I mean by that, and you guys let me know if you relate to this at all, but I always say the new 100% of me is 75% of the old me. You know, like I feel like there's a quarter of me missing up here.
And it's so I've been on the same medication now for 16 years. And on multiple other medications before that. And so people ask me, like, what are the side effects like for you? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even remember what it was like before being on medication to be able to tell you now what the difference is. So to have that, like, I mean, you have years of experience from before, and now you can tell the difference, which that's awesome. Not awesome that you have to go through it, but it's awesome to be able to hear a different perspective.
Well, yeah, it's a totally different perspective. Like you've created this as your normality. Like you're so used to it. Whereas I was almost 38 years old before I ever had my first seizure and went on to anti-seizure medication. So, like, to me, the worst part is that I'm fully aware of it. Like, I can tell when my head's messing up. I just can't fix it. Yeah.
So you have an aura before your seizure, or you can tell, like, through the whole seizure that it's happening?
I tend to. I've had like small seizures where like I just know what's happening, and it's more of like a stiffen up, but I don't like go out. But then I have like the full on like big tree fall hard, and I wake up on the floor.
Okay. And there's a question
Because
from
I'm not
Sandy
married
here. In the comments saying, asking if any of us are able to stop our meds, or is it a lifetime thing? As far as for me, to my knowledge, it's going to be a lifetime thing. It's been several years now. Again, it's been December will be 3 years for me seizure free. And so, I don't want, I mean, in the past 15 years, I've had 3 seizures. And that is enough for me to want to not change anything. They're well enough controlled that I'm like, I'm not messing with anything. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I will just take that how it is. If that means that I don't take medication for the rest of my life, then I will just keep doing that. So.
Yeah, I'm in it for life.
I've been. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm so bad at boxes. I've personally been told that I'm gonna be on this for the rest of my life. I tried myself, me being the doctor that I'm not. I've tried to wean myself off, and I was good for a while, but then March 25th of last year, I had 3 seizures in one day.
Oh, gracious. Yeah.
And it's kind of like you can only sit there and poke the bear for so long before the bear wakes up.
And my hope is like there is something that comes about. Like I always still hold on to hope that research, as we get more advanced, maybe something will come out that medication is not just the answer, because we do have so many, like holistic is becoming a big thing in, as far as the doctor side, we're having 2 approaches now because there is evidence. Like the pharmaceuticals are just a Band-Aid, right? They're not the cure. They're not fixing the root issues of what's going on, and the toxicity of the pharmaceutical companies, right? And so I always have hope, and plus I'm in the woo-woo field, like there's all this plant medicine out here. When he's out of this house, y'all won't catch me doing ayahuasca and all the mess. Like I will be in some jungle, doing combo, frog mess, all of it. And I'm I'm not even going to lie. Like, we will figure out.
We're gonna do a group trip.
What did you say?
I was gonna say, Ufer's your guy for that because he's all about all of that stuff. I'm just like, give me my meds and I'm good.
Well, have you tried it for it? Because I'm all about it. I'm like, the earth will heal. Like, the earth, all the medicines come from the earth. Now, I will say THC is not for me. It never has been, never has been. It gives me anxiety. I start talking to Jesus. I don't like it. Like, but hallucinogens are a whole different thing. And I do believe it goes into the subconscious. And I do believe, What did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I have typing behind my ears as well. We have gaming going on. Serious gaming.
You're all good. No, I said talking to Jesus is not a bad thing, but I'm all about ayahuasca and all that stuff.
I love that. Yeah, so because I'm a yoga teacher, so that's a whole big thing in our industry is, trying to find something other than, just numbing in some way. So, and I feel like the medicines, what you're talking about, I can feel them too. I'm adjusting mine right now. So I can feel just I don't know what it feels almost like headaches or pressure for me at this very moment. But it also just irritates the pure crap out of me. So, to be right honest, just there's no telling if they keep it up at this rate.
Well, and I've been told professionally from my doctors that it's not just the last head injury, it was all of them, one of which was I broke my C5 and C6 vertebrae in my neck, and that was from a direct impact to the top of the head. It was a compression fracture, so I took everything straight to the head and woke up a couple weeks later, and that was shoot, goodness, that's been 15 years ago that happened. And
so now you can tell people that you have epilepsy because you got dropped in your head too many times when you were little.
Yeah, I blame my parents 100%.
Don't we all? That's the whole purpose of it, to blame them.
Gotta blame someone. So
yeah, exactly.
Oh man. What all have they done for you, for testing and stuff to try and because have they tried to figure out where in the brain your seizures are coming from? Have they done any kind of what have they done as far as testing?
To be honest with you, it's half of a encyclopedia worth of paperwork that I've read through and through. But one thing that is a side effect of me having medication and me having head injuries is my eyes do this. They read every single word. But I'm also thinking about fishing while I'm reading, so I have a hard time retaining information.
Yeah.
I don't know about that problem at all.
I did that test the other day. I did that test the other day, and I think I do the same thing. I have to really enjoy what I'm reading for me to retain it. If it's BS that I don't care about, I'll read that thing 100 times and be doing yoga poses in my head or off in another land. So, directions are terrible. Oh my gosh, it needs to be visual. The more visual things are, the greater response and retaining I can have of it. So yeah, I get that completely. I did a test the other day to see how much damage, like, well, I could just feel over the years something like the decline of my brain health. And it said that my ocular and vestibular were like diminishing. And I was like, well, that's great. So that's also a functional doctor can tell you all those things. But basically, the seizures too will create brain degeneration on top of like if you've had head. So that's great. Positive note.
So much fun. So much fun. Have you ever done a neuropsych eval?
No, I don't. Well,
For
I don't
me,
know.
I have
Either of you.
I don't think so.
Nope.
They're horrible. Don't ever do one.
I mean, I've done a psych eval. I don't know what's the difference between a neuropsych and a psych evaluation.
The neuropsych eval is like they're basically testing how your brain performs in different situations.
Oh. Okay.
And so you go through and you do a whole bunch of tests, and it tests a lot of things like memory and things like that, and then problem solving to try and figure out how your brain is working in different situations. After I fell, they did a neuropsych eval on me, and then did a second one like a year later to see how my brain was progressing as far as healing from having like a traumatic brain injury. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely easier the second time because I knew what I was getting into. And parts of that for me were super fun to do. Like the problem solving stuff I love doing. But like the memory stuff, I hate that because my memory is horrible. They tell you like this long story, and then they're like, so just remember that. And then like 15 minutes later, they're like, so tell me as much as you know about the story that I told you. I'm like, there was a person that was in a rainstorm. That's what I know. I don't remember what all the details were about it. It was like, it was unimportant information. So my brain was like, nah, we don't need that. So yeah, but it was, so that part of it was very frustrating for me.
Yeah, they did it in that at the functional doctor. It was like 2 hours of stuff like that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was the
like
same
a whole
thing.
8 hour long thing.
Yeah, did a story that I already knew I was going to do terrible on that because I didn't in school that became very hard. Where I didn't have issues before, that became very hard. And then recalling numbers, recalling words. I think my max is 4. 4 I could recall.
Yeah.
I can recall 4 digits and 4 words. That was it.
Yep.
It's so, like, it's humbling, humility. Like, you get to this point, you're just like, okay. What?
And then they'll give you a set of numbers. They'll say like 5, 7, 9, 3. Okay, now repeat them in reverse order. And I'm like, what? Well, what? Like,
can I write this down, please?
Yeah. Can I take notes while we do this?
Yes. Can I write it down first?
Yeah. It's horrible, man. It messes your head.
So you guys done with that, like with your actual doctor? Because one of my neurologists was always like, he'd walk in the room like hunky dory, everything's, we're doing good, everything's up on the up and up, and then he'd be like, blue 13 whale. I'm gonna be back in an hour. Remember those 3 words. I'll be like, what 3 words? And like, I was just, it's like, can I just get one more run back? The one time I managed to steal his pen because I signed some paperwork, and so I wrote the words on my hand, and he came back in.
It's like taking notes in class, like that.
Yeah. And it's almost like the pressure.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the pressure even to, like, as soon as it's like, okay, I need you to remember this.
Yeah.
And having that already, Yeah, insecurity. Like if you tell me, like if I'm watching some like fact that nobody needs to know, absolutely nobody will ever need to know it, but I'm going to have it and I'm going to remember it and spit it out randomly for absolutely no reason. Like I can tell you absolutely the craziest things in this world that have no purpose besides me remembering them. But when it comes to important things, it all has to be written down in this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't even do it on a phone. Like a phone doesn't work either. It's just specific things. So yeah.
Oh man, my notes app on my phone is full.
So do y'all use the phone?
I keep so many notes.
I see. I'm a paper person. Like I'm old school. Like I have to write everything down on like in my planner. If it's on my phone, then I'll forget that I wrote it down in my phone. So the paper works. I guess it's just big. I don't know.
I don't ever lose my phone. I would lose paper.
Oh.
No.
I'm more likely to lose the phone than the paper.
Yeah, no.
I've lost many of phones in my life.
I'd end up finding my phone wrapped in paper and be like, what the heck happened? Just my phone all wrapped up in paper. Like, I know there was a note in here somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. And they get there's so many places it can go in the phone. And I think it's one or the other. Like, regardless if you have epilepsy or not, you're either a paper person or a phone person. And
my bosses at work will be like, here's a notepad. I need you to go around and like check on all these 50 rooms and write something down on. I'm like, dude, I have a phone.
Yeah.
I can write a note on there and then I can go, boop, share. It's shared to you. Now you have the note that I wrote down and I still have it. I don't have to go find a photocopy machine or something. Like, what are we going to do, dude?
That would be me. That would be
let me write this down and I'll fax it to you. Man. And then when you're done, you just delete it.
Right. Yeah.
I guess like that's all preference. So whatever.
I don't ever delete anything. That's my biggest issue. So I'm like, why do I have this note? Because I don't remember why I put the note. So I'm like, I obviously still need it.
I'll put like a number in my phone in my notes. I'll just put just a number in there, and it'll be a 4-digit number. That's a code for something, and it has just the number because I needed to remember for like that day. Then I'll go back later. I'm like, I have no idea what this number's for. Oh well, whatever. Just delete it because I'm not gonna remember later either.
My notes consist of like passwords, bank accounts, and grocery lists, like from years ago. Like that is the organization. That if somebody got in my phone, there would be, they would have to know where to go. But yeah, like literally, I just pulled it up. It's a grocery list. I don't know from when, but it's there.
I have an app for grocery lists.
I do too. It's like milk, Out of Milk. Out of Milk is a great app for grocery lists if you want to use it. But for some reason, I use my notes. There is organization. There is organization in the mess. Controlled chaos. There you go.
Yeah.
Controlled chaos. That is the exact way that I put it.
Yep. Controlled chaos.
Before we go any farther, Morgan, did you want to talk about what we talked about earlier today? Just go ahead and talk about that for a little while.
Our school?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we have started.
We'll do a little infomercial right here in the middle.
Yes. All right. So we've started Epilepsy Allies, which is a school community. It's free. It's for, collaboration and support for those with epilepsy and those with not to come together spread awareness and really create a community where everybody feels safe and can learn more about epilepsy and each other and just anybody in general with a diagnosis. So in this platform, you can discuss in the general discussion. We're going to have several discussions about anything, you know, you're struggling with, you want to know about. We also have yoga on the calendar already. We have Breaking the Stigma as our first class. And so we hope to add more, but we're really excited about building this and people helping us build this. So yeah, we would definitely love to have you on there and just anybody putting their input. So we feel like, or not feel like, but we have the epilepsy community, right? And so that's such a supportive community, but we really want to combine people with epilepsy with those who don't. Like, that's how we start to feel safe. Like, we start to feel safe when others who don't have epilepsy have more awareness. And when we start to speak our truth, we start to feel comfortable. We start to have empathy. And so if we can create a community like that online, because there really isn't one. You have epilepsy communities, you have, non-epilepsy communities, but finding and figuring out, especially with epilepsy, that people are, not going to judge you. They want to support you. There's just lack of awareness, to be honest. I think that's really the main thing, is just a lack of awareness in general. But epilepsy, people with epilepsy, not just really in America, but in a lot of countries, face a big stigma of, excuse me, of how they're treated. So hold on. So I'm not entirely sure completely where it's going to go, but this is definitely where we're starting. If that makes sense.
You gotta build a foundation before you can start to frame.
Right, absolutely.
And kind of what we talked about, because this does include yoga, it does include training classes and things like that. We talked about, so it will at some point have a fee that goes along with it, because there'll be so much in with it. For at least the first 50 people, we're going to let the first at least 50 people in for free. And then we'll go from there. But there's going to be a lot of stuff in there that's going to be very useful, very valuable information. So, yeah.
I love all this. Wait, so I feel a little bit ignorant right now. Could be brain fog, could be ignorance, but are you guys locally in the same area?
No, we're on different coasts, basically.
I'm in Colorado. She's in North Carolina.
Yes. And you're in the middle, right? Michigan's kind of in the middle. Yeah, north middle, right?
Yeah.
Isn't Michigan kind of in the... I thought so. I mean, I know it's up north. But it's in the middle, right? Yeah, we created a triangle.
Yeah.
So we just need someone out on the West Coast now.
Yeah.
And actually, I know someone out there, so we got this. We got it covered.
That's awesome.
Hey, bud.
Maybe we'll have a big epilepsy gathering retreat one day.
Yeah. But we'll have to have someone that can drive people around.
Yes. Well, if you can do it by train, honestly. Well, look. We have a great train system as long as you can get to the train. It might take a little bit of time, because now that I've lost my license currently, I'm like, well, how do I get to travel? Because I'm still going to where my birthday's coming up in November. So, I can get somebody to drive me to the train station. I was like, I'm still celebrating somehow. So yes, actually, the trains, we can come by the trains. The trains, and they're rather cheap, affordable. You know, it's really actually not that bad compared to driving in planes.
Yeah. No, they're way cheaper. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I feel like it's a cool experience. Like you can just snooze it out for a little bit and then still wake up and see all of God's creation.
The train rides they have up north are absolute, like you can do, it's kind of like a cruise package they have, but it's for a train package. It takes you all like on these beautiful journeys where you can go sightseeing without like getting out. The train just takes you through all these sightseeing places. And I want to do that one day, but I want mine to go by Utah Zion National Park, and I can't remember where else it was. Y'all, I'm choking. Huh?
I said that is not north.
No, it starts at New York. It starts at New York and goes through, let's see, Pennsylvania, I think. It goes like all the way up. It's you have to look it up through the train station. I can't think of it at the top of my head. But yeah, it just goes all the way down there.
Sandy's asking a question that she's just curious, like, what are the triggers for each of us for seizures? I'll go ahead and start. Like, for me, I know of two things only that will cause me to have a seizure: not taking my meds, and if I have artificial sweeteners. So other than that, I can be as stressed out as possible. I can not sleep as much as I want. I can be completely dehydrated. I can eat horrible. None of those things affect me at all. Flashing lights, none of the other triggers affect me at all. But I can't have artificial sweeteners, so that's my kryptonite.
Okay.
No macaroons?
As long as they have regular sugar in them.
No.
I don't think these have regular sugar. They probably have more. They probably have all the sugars.
Oh, if it's all the sugars, I don't care. As long as it's real. I'll take as much sugar as you give me.
I don't know, but I'm in the grocery store. I feel like anything in the grocery store has
I'll send you some honey.
Yeah. So most of the stuff in the grocery store will have like they use like corn syrup and things like that. But that stuff is fine. It's like the aspartame and like the 0 calorie sweeteners is what does it. So yeah.
My triggers are definitely not taking my medicine. That's stress and hormones. Hormones, stress, and lack of sleep tend to be the big three that I have found. And like over exhaustion, I can see, I think is one of them. So I would put that in stress, like too much stress.
Yeah. I'm more on Morgan's side because for me, I feel like the lack of sleep and stress is the two components I've found that when they come to a head, I fall over.
Yeah,
Stiff as a board.
Same here. That's exactly what happens to me.
Stiff as a shaken board.
Luckily, I've been laying down most of the time.
My favorite part about this right now, just out of appreciation for you two and everybody in the chat also, but just the fact that we can sit here and have a sense of humor about it. Like,
Absolutely.
that's... we're like, this is us, and here we are. So, love it, leave it, hate it, or
It's such a. I mean, I could sit here and be completely serious about it, um, but it's not gonna help. It's more real for me to be just who I am about it. And yeah, I do a lot of like education and stuff, and all my videos are like, it's not me getting in there laughing and stuff like that, but it's a lot of information. But to get in here and just talk and just have a good time and talk about the funny side of it that we can see being with it, is just it's awesome. It makes it more real. Hey, Bubble
Yeah.
Warrior, how are you?
Absolutely.
Well, that's just it. Like it's kind of one of those things, and I think there's a reason. You guys can have your reasons, I can have mine, but there's a reason why people like us find each other to just be able to communicate this way about it,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. The last time I
Absolutely.
actually had a real season, I was trying to open up blueberries, and I felt myself stiffening up. And as soon as they came open, they went flying, and I slipped over.
Let me tell you one time when I have juvenile myclonic jerks. So they're my first thing, and it's where like I twitch, like I have muscle jerks, right? It's almost like it looks like
Yeah.
Tourette's, okay? So when I was younger, I would be like, and this is when they weren't that controlled. And so it always happened in the morning, and I would be getting milk. I can't tell you how many gallons of milk I have flown in the air, like covered the kitchen. My mom would come in and just be slinging things. And she was like, let me just do it. And I was so stubborn. But yeah, it's the same thing. So many things flown in the air, just flung, completely just trying to do simple task and a disaster.
Yeah, and my whole take on it was like, what's better than waking up in a pile of blueberries? Like, I snacked myself back awake.
That is too
Oh,
funny.
man.
That is too funny.
You say you're on what medication are you on right now, Pete?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm on Briviact.
Okay.
It's Briviact.
Yeah. And
I've been
how is
through
that?
5
How's
in the
that
last
working?
2 years. I went a year and a half without anything at all, and then just out of nowhere, blueberries everywhere.
I feel like that could be like your autobiography title, like out of nowhere, blueberries.
Out of nowhere, there was blueberries everywhere. Welcome to the world of seizures.
Oh man. That's awesome. Uh, um, Besides like the obvious, um, what are some ways like that? Since you've been diagnosed, like what are some ways that this is like affected you, like changed your life? Besides the obvious of now you have epilepsy to deal with, like
I would say just confidence.
okay,
Yeah, like
in a good way or a bad way?
bad way.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
like just I don't like driving. I don't like. Thankfully, I've been gifted like I've been self-employed for over 15 years now, so I can decide if today's the day I'm going to work or today's the day I'm not going to work. I have that as a gift.
That's awesome.
But just I used to be the guy that went 20 hours a day, didn't stop, I didn't ask questions. I just went. And now it's like I hope everybody else picks up the slack.
Yeah. And it's hard to like shift that mindset to a point of where you do have to put your dependency, your reliance on other people when you've been so self-dependent. You've been, listen, I take care of everything, and then you have to shift and get to a point of, well, I have to depend on other people because I can't do it all myself anymore.
Yep. Yeah,
What
100%, 100%.
What do you wish you had known about epilepsy and seizures? Like when you were first diagnosed, what do you think would have been, if at all, if it had made it a little bit easier? Like if you had known, did you already know about seizures or epilepsy at all?
I was aware because I used to have a person that lived with me. Like he was my roommate for a few years, and he would like I witnessed 2 seizures throughout the course of like 5 years. So I was aware, but I wish it's kind of one of those things you don't know until you know.
Right.
You know, like that. It goes no different with me and anxiety. Like
Yeah.
I never knew what anxiety felt like until I started having seizures.
So you didn't have anxiety until you had seizures? Oh my
I thought it
gosh.
was a made up word. I thought it was a made up word.
Yeah. Well, I've had seizures for so
And
long, maybe. Yeah.
well, I think that's where Joe's perspective of bringing me in is like
Yeah.
I'm so new to this,
Right.
whereas you guys have been dealing with it for so long. But I'm not joking you. 5 years ago, I would have said anxiety's it's junk. Like, like I didn't think it was a real thing. I never experienced it in my life.
What's fear?
Now I experience it from.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
fear.
didn't know that.
Anxiety is fear, you know? So now you have to live with something that's causing you fear. So that is like anxiety
Yeah.
technically it's an emotion. Like that's what it is.
It's
And now
the-
you have to experience that. So technically it wasn't anything for you. Like it wasn't real because it didn't exist. So everybody now that has like some form of fear that they can't resolve, I would say I don't know if you can resolve this type of fear because epilepsy is epilepsy, right? I've lived with anxiety and this fear for so freaking long that I was just like, I guess thinking everybody just had anxiety for some reason. You're just all living scared. Like.
And now I get that entirely. Like prior to seizures, fear to me was A to B. Like my fear was succeeding in this goal right now. Now my fear is A to Z. Like I'm scared of everything else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It totally changes your perspective when you have a whole. It's like an unknown. That's your body, it's your mind, whatever. Morgan and I were talking about this earlier today.
Yeah, you don't
your
feel
body
safe.
is attacking. Yeah, your body is attacking itself, and
It's
it's
self-harm.
hard to feel
Yeah.
safe. Yeah, you can't feel safe in a place where you're being attacked by something. That you're being attacked by your own body, which is where you should feel the safest.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Because it's self-harm. Like people don't, I don't think, I even realized it until I was with somebody the other day and she was talking about it. But, we think of self-harm as like we are causing self-harm and whatever that is, but we don't have control of this self-harm. Like we can do all the things to try to prevent it, but it's technically what it is we're uncontrollable self-harm, and that's scary because we don't know when the next one is like, so how do we build that trust with ourselves? And I think we're doing great, right?
You're a victim of your own body.
Right.
I'm just saying, you're stuck wondering, like, is it gonna happen? I did a parade today with a friend of mine for our company, and my whole thing was like, it's gonna be like horns and music and people yelling and all this stuff, and I was just like, all I could think about this morning, I was literally like, just hold it together, please. And I did, and thank God.
And just like holding it together, like, did you have the anxiety, like something might come on, like a seizure, or emotionally hold it together?
To me, it's more or less like I don't want to put anybody else in the situation of me having a seizure.
Right.
So I don't want to put them through it. I would rather be out in the woods and hope to wake up after. I would rather that happen than for me to have like a family gathering and then I just have a seizure out of nowhere.
It's almost like you're the burden, right? Like it almost feels like a burden too. It's like you ruined the party. Like it feels almost like that in an internal way you want to be the life, like you used to be the life of the party, and now we're just this kind of burden if this happens. And I don't think anybody thinks like that. Like we were talking about that earlier. Like I don't think anybody thinks of us as a burden or that we're not safe. Well, hopefully we are safe with the people we surround ourselves with. But it's just a feeling, and I think that honestly stems from childhood of like when we weren't happy, when we showed emotions that weren't celebrated by our parents, when we, like all these things as a kid, like, like be silent, like children should not be heard or seen, like that type. So now we can't help but be seen during these seizures. And that is a terrifying thing when you have been taught something completely different, because it's not a happy emotion. It's not a celebratory thing. So I think that's a big stemming of why this does not feel so safe, other than it's the seizure. That is my that's my 2 cents on it. That's my 2 woo-woo, psychological take on it. I will get real deep with this. I will be like, this is why we have all so much trauma and damage is because of our childhood.
Well, the whole thing with like the anxiety and the stress and stuff is that, and I made a video about this a while ago, is that it's weird with epilepsy. Not weird. It's a hard thing with epilepsy because it is a stress-inducing, anxiety-inducing diagnosis, while also you have to deal with the fact that seizures can be caused by stress and anxiety. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that, is that you have something that you now have causing the stress and anxiety, but when you have something causing stress and anxiety, then you have a seizure happening over here, and it's like so if that's not enough to paralyze someone with fear, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. Like your feelings and everything.
It's like the snowball effect. Like the further it rolls downhill, the bigger it gets, and
yeah.
And it's so valid what you're feeling. I've been there 20 bazillion times as well, and probably still will continue to be there. I don't know.
I like how you thought about like 20, like you had to actually count the 20 bazillion in your head.
That's why I breathe. Like breathing has saved me so many times, and saying fuck it. Like fuck it and breathing have saved my ass for so long, because at the end of the day, I know this is kind of harsh, but it's like, it's out of your control, and you can't, like, if the stress, like we just talked about, if we stress even more, let our mind spiral, that is where issues can arise. So if I'm just like, fuck it, woosah, breathe, or lay on the floor. Last Friday, I just laid on the floor in the middle of a CrossFit. Like, just like Carter had to tell everybody, like, hey, my mom has seizures. And I was like, yep, y'all are doing too much. So the fact that I feel like I'm about to have a seizure. So it wasn't their fault, but anyways, awesome. But I get it. Breathe. I breathe like a dragon. I breathe so loud, like, so I can't hear me think. That's what I do.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes your thoughts are your worst enemy, especially in this situation.
Absolutely. So
I tend to overthink. I tend to overthink and stress myself out with my own thoughts. Like just simply driving, like I stress out about it. There's
it's
times
interesting
where I
to hear like it's interesting for me to hear you guys talk about like the stress and anxiety that it causes, because I don't have that. And not to say that like that's a whole different like not to say it's any better or anything like that. I just it's not there for me. I just and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not a good thing, I don't know, maybe I should be more stressed out about it, I don't know.
I don't wish it on anybody.
Like, but I'm just like,
don't be
I don't know,
I'm not a doctor, but don't be more stressed out about it.
Yeah, no.
But at this point I'm just like, well, I mean, if I have one, I have one, and it's whatever, I don't know, like then I just move on. I don't know. Like if my next one, if I'm injured any worse than I am on my last one, then I'll be dead. So I can't get any worse than I was.
So when was the last time you had one?
December 13th.
Yours was right? December 13th.
No, I'm trying to guess Joe's.
You were 3 days off. December 16th.
December 16th of what year?
2021.
2021. Okay, so you haven't had one in were you like around the time of your seizure, you don't have any anxiety, like, oh my gosh, you're reminded of it? Okay,
so here's the weird thing. Is like every once in a while I'll be like no. Like every once in a while I'll have a thing where I'll be like, dude, something is not right. Like there is something weird going on. And like even the other day at work, I was like, I felt super weird. And like I don't have like an emergency my ex is my emergency contact, I think, still on my phone, and I'm like, whatever. So I took my phone out and I recorded a video of myself saying something is not right now. Something doesn't feel right, because I wanted that in there in case I ended up having a seizure. Nothing happened, of course, but I at least had that. So, but like on the day that I actually did have one, I had felt kind of weird that morning, and like I said, it was a lot of anxiety, where I was working on a roof, and I was terrified. I'm not scared of heights. I'm not scared of heights at all. But for whatever reason, this day I was terrified. I was terrified to be on that roof. Well, I'm scared of heights now. I don't go on anything off the ground anymore. But I was completely terrified. I was tied off. I was working with the heart, like I was doing everything I could to be as safe as I could, and I was still just terrified up there. And I had told my my wife at the time that that's how I was feeling, and then just kept going about my work because I was doing my job. And then later on, like once it all happened and stuff, then she's like, later on, she was like, you remember telling me this? And I was like, no. I mean, she showed me like the text messages or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be something that like leading into it, there was a high level of like, not normal anxiety, stress, and like fear that I don't usually have.
Yeah. Because that's my thing is like, since mine are so, I don't usually have this much anxiety around them, but because mine are so frequent now, I think that's why I'm so, like, I've never really had an issue with driving. Now I don't care to drive whatsoever. I don't care to be in the car. It is like a terrifying experience for me. So I'm not really mad to not be driving right now, but just, I guess, I don't know, since it's just a pivotal change in my epilepsy for whatever reason, the uncertainty is almost like starting back again, like starting over from the initial stage, like from the beginning. So until it gets controlled and I feel secure in it, I think that's why so much anxiety and stuff is popping up. Because I used to not be like this.
Do you mind if I ask, like, the last time you had them? Because you said now that you're having them so often. Mm-hmm. When was the last time?
Ooh, the last time, it was probably a month ago. Let me see. I wrote it down. Or I would say the end of August. Yeah, probably the end of August.
Okay.
But yeah,
I don't need a.
So typically it's always been like the week before, maybe TMI, but the week before my period. It's a hormonal thing. Always has been. So I've always been pretty secure at like, it's late at night. I need to take it easy the week before my period, and I got it. But now it's not like that. They're still at night, but the hormones, and maybe my hormones are just changing because I'm getting older, which could be a thing. So I have to take a certain test. Huh? Maybe. I don't know, but I'm still young. Like, I'm 36. I was just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is the great thing about being a woman. I was like, we're always changing, and with that, epilepsy gets to change too. So this will just be probably the consistency of my life. Anyways, so here we are, and it's kind of scary not to know, because I've always kind of known the formula for my seizures. So even if I had one, 6 months or a year, I still knew when it was going to happen. Like, if it was going to happen.
You could map it out.
Yeah. But now it's just like, all right, I just got to be real mindful about how much activity, how much screen time, how much stress. And so.
Yes.
Fine. So I took away the main concern for me was the driving. Like you said, like I was seriously driving like this, like one hand like hugging myself. It felt like I was on narcotics, like when I was driving high back in the day when I shouldn't have been. That's what it felt like. TMI. I'm not a delinquent anymore. I'm sorry, I was young and stupid. But anyways, that's what it felt like. I was paranoid, like completely out of my mind. So I'm fine now. I'm not driving. I'm okay with that.
Not driving, not taking drugs, not drinking, none of
I'm
those.
good. I'm gonna sit in my little tower in my apartment and I'll be fine. What did Sandy say?
Yeah, I don't get any anxiety from driving. I get anxiety from passengers.
That's even worse.
I'm fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like I don't. It doesn't even cross my mind if I'm by myself. But if somebody else gets in the vehicle, I'm like, don't have a seizure. Don't have a seizure. Don't have a seizure.
As if you can will yourself to not.
Yeah, like I'm gonna talk myself out of it. But I will say that the last time when I had 3 seizures in the same day, I had been driving that whole day. It was with my ex and her 2 beautiful kids, and I'd been driving that whole day, and we left the skate park. And by skate park, I mean roller skates, not skateboards. And it was flashing lights. It was loud. It was just everything was echoing. And as we walked back out into broad daylight, I was like, ooh, like something just. It was like coming out of this dark building with all these flashing lights. And I walked back into daylight. I was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but do you mind driving? And I handed her the keys. Thank God I did, because I had 3 seizures, like almost like back to back to back.
Man, that's crazy.
Well, I'm glad you listened to your intuition. And yeah, those skating rinks, those lights. I love skating, and he loves skating, my son back there. But those lights are brutal. They're brutal to me. Joe, does the lights bother you at all?
No.
Nah.
Nope. They don't bother me at all.
Well, you're just so lucky. No anxiety, no lights, just sugar.
Don't care in the world.
No goes with the flow.
Yeah, it's just.
But no, like.
I think that like what you said kind of answers that, like what you said kind of answers Sandy's question at the to a little bit. So.
Oh, and Sandy, your questions are not silly at all. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah.
We appreciate you joining in as well.
Yeah,
I don't have any kind of warning. So.
For me, I at no point while I was in the building did I feel like, oh, something's coming on. It was walking out of a dark building with flashing lights and then walking into broad daylight. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, like we were like halfway to the car, and I almost like felt my legs buckle, and I was like, something's not right. Something's not right. And I just asked her if she would drive. Not 2 miles down the road, while we were going. Keep in mind, we were going 65 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Not 2 miles down the road, I went stiff as a board.
I love your what is that? That's so great.
Like, hey JL.
They're so great.
Oh man. Morgan, you said you have a warning, right? So you can let people know and stuff like at least a little bit ahead of time if you have one.
Um, Now I don't know if it's like from the body awareness that I'm getting from practicing yoga. I used to not like at all.
Okay.
Now I can kind of either I'll have my clonic jerks from the JME, so I'll have like twitches first. That's kind of letting me know like, hey, you need to freaking go lay down or go to bed. Um, and I get hot. So typically, Carter might be up. He's up late, and he'll hear. He says I like scream. Right? He says like I do some screeching noise. I don't know. It's probably like gasping for air. But yeah, typically the juvenile myoclonic jerks or my nervous system feels dysregulated. Like my breathing, my heart rate, all like red flags, alarms are going off to where
Okay.
I need to lay down and regulate my breathing. If I make it. If it allows me to. Sometimes I'm too late. Sometimes I'm already like, we're already there, past.
I'll say you're laying down one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. So I just try to make it to the floor. I try to make it to the floor before, anything. And then that way, there's no falling, there's no hitting my head or anything like that. So, and I've gotten pretty lucky with that.
I was gonna say Youper and I just hit our heads beforehand, but whatever.
So what would y'all say? Do y'all see any positive? Like, has epilepsy brought you any perspective that you wouldn't have if you had never got epilepsy?
I mean, I can't say that I'm glad that I have it,
Right.
but I can say that I'm glad that I'm open to talk about it.
Right.
Because I feel like I can understand why somebody would sit in a closet and just be scared. And I hope that like what we're doing right here, right now, that brings people to comfortability. It brings people to just knowing that there's three of us beautiful humans just talking about it.
Absolutely. I love that.
Like that's incredible.
Well, and I mean, I'd say that's kind of the same thing. Is that like I don't know that I could honestly say that I am grateful that I have it, but I'm grateful for getting to the point that I have of being able to look at it from the perspective that I do of if I do have this, I'm going to use it in the best way that I can to reach out to people who are affected by it, to help and to help train other people, to teach other people. I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten messages on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok from people that go, "Hey, I saw your video and I saw whatever you said, and I appreciate that so much." I've gotten messages from doctors in other countries and doctors in the U.S. that say, "Hey, we show your video for training in our classroom," and it's just like that's wild to me.
That's
I
awesome,
didn't
man.
start
That's so
doing
cool.
this like to try and like get famous or anything. I'm not famous now, but I did not try and do this to like become famous, to become a millionaire, anything. I'm neither of those things, but I'm just like I'm so excited that the little bit of a difference that I am making, like if I can use this at all, it's so awesome to me. So
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, Joe, I know you're not famous. I know that, but I do know you via a friend from South Africa. Like, I went from North America to South Africa, back to North America to find you, and thank God.
That is awesome. I love social media for that very reason.
It is. Yeah, it's so amazing. So
Hey, Mama.
Yeah.
Mama You's in here. Oh, Mama.
I saw
Wink
she was your
2929.
mom. I was like, oh. Yeah. I clicked on it when she came in earlier. I said wink 29. I was like, oh, hey, it's Youper's mom.
That's so
it just
awesome.
says that right in her profile. It just says Youper's mom. Like,
oh, I love that. That's so great.
That's awesome.
I'm a mom, so I'd be doing the same thing with Carter. He probably had me blocked though.
He's not old enough to appreciate his mom yet.
No,
so.
he's in his preteen phase. He needs space. He needs space currently.
Yeah.
He wants to be near me, but far away at the same time.
Yeah.
Doing this.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like, I'm grateful for the journey that it has, or the perspective that it has given me. I am not grateful for a seizure ever in my life, but the perspectives that it has given me that I would not have had, like how precious life is, right? How precious life is, the gift it is, to have compassion for others. The power constructs, I would never probably have the perspective of somebody with a disability and the chronic illness. So not having ableism, like ableism is a big thing, in our societies, in people in general, from the lack of awareness. You go about your life just because you're not impacted by it, right? Like you travel, you go about your life, you just do your own things. And then there's a whole subset of people who have it so much harder that life isn't just, so easy.
Amen.
Just even basic things, like just very basic things. And so to have this very wide perspective from living both lives, I'm really grateful for that. Like, super grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because I would have been a lot more privileged than I already am, so, because I can honestly say I'm very, privileged in so many aspects, but thankfully and gratefully I was, have these other point of views that I can help people with. So that is where I see it.
I think that's the difference that we want to make, is that we're not just going to get to a point of, listen, I accept this, I'm good with it, I'm moving on with my own life. It's, I accept this, I'm good with it, and now I'm going to do whatever I can to give back to other people to get them to a point where they are good with it too. And not just doing whatever I can in a selfish way for myself.
Yep, I agree with that 100%.
And Sandy, I see you have chronic migraines. That is a brain thing. And that can be also a debilitating thing as well, living with chronic migraines. I know I've had some friends that had chronic migraines, and that they couldn't work. They couldn't do a lot of things with as severe as that. I'm not sure the severity you have, but absolutely. The brain impacts everything we do, like even our mental health. Like in yoga, a lot of people talk about the mind and our mental health, but the mind and mental health and our thoughts are directly related to the health of our brain. And that goes for the body and everything else. So yeah, chronic migraines, that's a tough one as well. And that's the thing, all of us are struggling with something. if it's not epilepsy, there is something, you know? And if we can be a little bit more compassionate to the next person, that is amazing in my book.
I agree entirely. I honestly think that, like, when you look at the whole entire glass and where we're at in the glass full or half empty or half full, whatever you want to think about, we don't have it that bad. You know, like there's so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people that have it worse than we do. So that's something to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I ate as much as I wanted to today, and I'm in a comfortable house, and I will go to bed in a comfortable bed tonight. I can't complain. What do I have to complain about?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes. And when I tend to like get on my you know, sad, like, I don't know, complaining or something, I usually am reminded something in this world as always sends me like a nudge of like, you have nothing to be complaining. Like everything in your life you have asked for, whether or you have worked for, like this is the life that you asked for. You know, just because you have this challenge, there is something to learn with it, you know? Like humble yourself. It's basically. But it's okay. All emotions need to be felt. There's no, for me, I don't think there's any wrong emotion. Life is an experience. So we can give ourselves a little grace.
I don't think there's wrong emotions. I think there's wrong things that you can do with emotions.
Yes.
There's wrong decisions that can be made. Wrong decisions that can be made based on emotions.
Absolutely. So, have made quite a few.
Well, I'm not innocent on that one, so I won't blame you.
Have made quite a few.
Yeah.
But,
since you're someone who has is kind of more on the beginning side, what are some things that either you would tell someone who's just starting out, or that someone has told you that has been encouraging to you, since you're more like towards the beginning of this journey?
To be honest with you, you're the only person that's ever like told me anything. As far as like just you're the first and only person that I've opened up to specifically about seizures. But if I was to say anything to anybody like that is just in the beginning phases, it would just be thankful you're still here. Be thankful that you can still function. You know, I mean, that's the worst part about seizures is at any given point you can go from fully functional to, and that's it. But at the end of the day, if I was to give somebody advice that was just starting out with this journey that we unfortunately have to lead, is just to stay positive. Like negativity is stress. Stress causes seizures. Like, stay positive. Like, I'm thankful that I have seizures. I'm thankful that I have seizures because seizures mean that I'm alive.
Right. And that's one way to look at it. So, yeah. That's awesome. I don't know
your
if you have
brain
anything
is
else
for
that you want
surely
to...
working.
Someone working overtime.
Yep, it is working. It is putting in work, and that is for sure. I love that.
I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to say to just close it out, Morgan.
Yeah. You know, what do you want to tell somebody else who's newly diagnosed? What is something like you would want to say to them? You would want them to hear? Either one of you. Or both of you.
Okay. I mean, I would always say.
You go, Joe. You go. You go.
Okay. I would say, and this is my thing is to you definitely want to build community, whether that's the community of people that you find online that you can relate to, whether that's a community of people that you have already in your life who you are willing to then open up to. Thanks, Jackie. Or whether that's a brand new community of people that you build based on this. But don't, Morgan and I talked about this today, too. Don't section yourself off to only people who have epilepsy, because that's it's a dangerous mindset of, you're then closing yourself off, you're shutting yourself down. So keep your open mind to talk to other people as well, because it keeps you it gives you a big community then. Jackie, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jackie.
Well, that's a lot to be said for the fact of like, if this is the worst we have it, we still got a lot to be thankful for. 100%. We still have a ton to be thankful for. Yeah. And that's how I like to look at it. That's how I like to see it. But the other thing that if I was to recommend is, until otherwise
Jackie
established, I would say don't go off your meds. I would just say, like, don't go off your meds. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much.
Jackie, if you're not following Jackie, you should be. She's amazing. So yes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate you. She's awesome.
Yes. I love this. It's so awesome. That's what it's like in my head. Like, literally. I resonated with, I was just like, oh, my head. That's the world I live in. I was like, that's just so beautiful. Thank you, Jackie.
How'd you know you were going to pick the perfect one, Jackie? That's awesome.
I love it. Love it.
Love you, Jackie. You're awesome. You're awesome, Jackie. Thanks, love you.
Jackie, thank you so much. Beautiful voice, beautiful person, beautiful personality.
Yeah.
Well, those are all great things, I believe. And yeah, just know that there's always seasons, right? Always seasons. Nothing is ever forever. So whatever you're dealing with, there's always purpose in it. I think always lessons and purpose for each and every single one of us. So whatever you're dealing with, I know,
Amen.
Depression, emotions, mental health comes with the package of anything with the brain, whether you have epilepsy or, migraines or anything that is impacting it. So just know you're more than the diagnosis.